Howdy folks, here is a prettier scenery for you, and there is a nice brush in front of me for me. I just replaced my Nico worm and the jig head. Brand new hook, brand new worm. It has a little bit of gold flakes. The old one I'm gonna show you in a video. It caught 100 fish. There were no gold flakes left. The head was all beaten and the tip of the hook, I was still catching fish, but when I compared them, the brand new hook was sharper, just touching them with my skin, the skin of my finger. So I replaced a perfectly good hook just because the other one was sharper yet. So when I have them, why not? I don't throw these old hooks. I don't know what I'm gonna do with them. I have a bunch of hooks that have caught like 50, 60 fish, and when I touch them with my finger, and they still feel sharp and they keep catching fish, sometimes on every cast, because you don't need a very sharp hook to catch a crappie. So I don't throw them, but just so I feel better, I replaced them. There was nothing wrong with the Nico worm either. This brush better produce immediately, or I'm a bell out of here, because these dots look already very small. It's probably small bluegill and small white crappie. And now when the brush is that far off the bank, that's what you get. Oh, well, I'm gonna have to take this back, folks. This here is a 12-inch fish. This is a 12-inch fish. I'm gonna flip him like this, the ugly way. Yeah, what a great way to open a video. What a great way to open a video. My God, I love fat crappie. Look at his mouth. I love fat crappie. Let's see if he's 12. I'll keep him if he's 12. He is 12. I'm gonna keep this fish, folks. I apologize, but you'll see I release 10s, 11s, 11 and a halves. I release 13s because those are trophy. But I will keep me 2 or 3 12s per fishing trip. Howdy folks, heads up, this video will seem pretty silly to most of you, but I haven't been fishing for a while and I'm not going to be able to fish for a few more weeks, so it's this video or nothing, so be warned. But anyway, in the short video that you just saw, this was the exact jig head and lure that I replaced. And this jig head and lure, you saw so many short clips of this day. This was an epic day with, I don't know, 150 crappie, but so many of them were 11 and 12 inch. It was absolutely incredible for Illinois. This jig head here was an absolute hero on that day. It caught so many big crappie, it caught a bunch of small bluegill, and it kept performing and performing, and I just didn't have any reason, any performance reason to remove it because I kept catching fish with it, even though I noticed it's been a while since I replaced my lure, but I wasn't getting bites that I couldn't catch. So like I said, I had no reason to replace this, but I still did. And this is the point of my video. I think I have like a OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. Like when something starts to bother me, I have to change it or it keeps bothering me. But I have this problem when I catch what I consider too many fish with the same hook or hook and lure, and I just change it. It doesn't matter if there is nothing wrong with it, I just change it anyway. So I'm wondering if there are any other weird people who replace perfectly fine jig heads just because they think they have used them too much. I don't think it's completely useless replacement, because look here on top is a brand new nickel worm. And this one here caught about 100 fish. I don't want to sound like I'm overcounting, but certainly more than 50 fish. And you can tell it's been used. All the flakes are gone. Now it doesn't have any kind of color. It looks kind of dead. Look at the lure on top. It looks kind of shiny. It looks more alive. Don't you think? Look at this. It looks kind of alive. It has gold flakes here. Look at this. Depending on how I turn it, the light, it has gold flakes. It looks wet and alive. And the tip of the hook, when I touch it, it still grabs my skin, but if I grab a brand new hook, it's more sticky than this one. I have a video review of this jig head if you want to see it. I call it the Bumblebee. I'm gonna leave a link to this jig head in the description. Check it out. But out of the box is really sharp. This one is still really sharp. I was not missing fish when I replaced it, but when I touch it, it's no longer as sharp as a brand new hook. So this is what I do. When I catch a bunch of fish, I replace them anyway, even though I was still catching fish, but the color was no longer kind of shiny and wet looking, and the hook was no longer perfectly sharp. So I just do that. Now the jig head on the bottom is from another kind of sensational fishing trip, even though I don't know, you're probably not gonna appreciate the fish that I was catching, because I caught like with this jig head definitely like 100 tiny bluegill, and the biggest one was maybe 6 inches, if that. But they were all like 4, 5, 6 inches. But there was like 1,000 fish school, and I was catching a tiny bluegill on every cast. And the difference with this jig head, I will leave a link to the review of this jig head also. I call it the bluegill assassin. Is after 100 fish, this tip of this hook is still 100% sharp. I replaced it anyway just because, I don't know, I kind of feel these jig heads are special because they caught so many fish and I didn't lose them. So I replaced it anyway and I put a new one. But this one I might just remove the body and put a new body and reuse this one. The other jig head I'm not going to reuse because the tip is no longer feeling brand new. But this is the bluegill assassin. These jig heads will feel brand new after 100 fish. They're absolutely amazing. But I don't know if you can tell here on the body, I'm zoomed like 6x. But with my eyes, I feel I can kind of tell the cuts from 100. Every one of these 100 fish left a little tear on the body of the trout magnet. But the trout magnet, because it's from such hard rubber, it's still intact. If you crazy glue this, which I do, I mean, you can catch 100 tiny bluegill with just one jig head and they're still going strong. But yeah, very interesting. This one here, let me show you. The nickel worm, while very durable, is not as durable as the... There is a cut here, there is a hole. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see. It is torn up. When I crazy glue them, they last a long time. Actually, the worm kind of came off too. But it still sits here because everything is so elastic. So even when it comes unglued, it kind of sits on the body properly. But it's torn everywhere. I mean, these are veterans, okay? These are veterans jig heads. But I actually do the same thing with carp fishing and with catfishing. Carp fishing, if I catch, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 carp with the same hook, I test it with my finger. Sometimes it feels perfectly fine. I will replace it and I'll put brand new hook. But 6, 8 carp, these Gamakatsu hooks that I use, they're no problem. Now my catfish hooks, maybe I'm buying cheaper hooks, they're not Gamakatsu. But my catfish hooks, the circle hook, after 3, 4 catfish, or maybe because the catfish have harder mouths, I can feel the tip is not the same, so I replace perfectly good hooks. the tip is not bent, it just doesn't feel as sticky anymore, I put brand new circle hooks. But one thing I strongly recommend you don't do is sharpening hooks with these ridiculous files that you buy on Amazon. You are not sharpening a hook. Now, if you're absolutely stranded on an island and that's the only jig head you have, and it's like completely bent because you snagged a rock or something, okay, in extreme circumstances, go ahead and straighten it up and sharpen it. But otherwise, you are not doing nothing with these ridiculous files that are like a 200 grit sandpaper. You are not sharpening nothing. These tips, especially on these Japanese hooks, they are chemically sharpened and then they are harder. They're hardened, okay? Once the tip is brand new, it's kind of very hard and very resilient to bending. Once you bend it and straighten it up, then it will bend just from a single fish. And I've noticed once these hooks, all of them have some kind of coating to protect them from rust and I don't know what. Maybe the coating is very hard also. But once you sharpen hooks, I do have experience with sharpening. I tried sharpening and I use very fine stones. I have 5,000 and even 10,000 grit Japanese stone that people buy for knives. I use it to sharpen hooks. Unless you have some very expensive stone, don't bother sharpening hooks, definitely with those files. But even with those stones, 10,000 grit Japanese stones, once you remove the coating, something happens with the tip and becomes very soft and unreliable. And my advice is do not sharpen hooks. Just put a new hook. Once the tip is no good, forget about these files. You are not getting a new tip when you sharpen it with a normal hook file. So that's my tip, but my question for you is actually in this video, do you guys remove hooks that look perfectly fine just because they've caught too many fish in your opinion? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching this one. See you soon. Bye bye.